This is the story that happened to one of my friend's old neighbors. His old neighbor lived in a little caravan park, and he liked to visit her often. They were pretty close. I was his lift at the time, so I'd normally hang with them. The little caravan park was located straight off a main road and highway. It led to our small historic townships. Tall oak trees shaded most of the park, creating a nice, cool temperature in the hot summers. Because it was such a small neighborhood in the caravan park, everyone knew each other. Whilst we were chilling there one day, my friend's neighbor, plus her former neighbor, started pointing out the fact that there were loads of ants. This wasn't normal, as they'd lived there for years and never once had that problem. The ants were everywhere for a few days, but eventually my friend's neighbor decided to follow the trail of ants and see where they were coming from. She followed them up to a caravan that was the next spot from hers. She found a few trails going in and out of this man's caravan. Everybody in the local neighborhood knew that the man who lived there was a bit of a hoarder and very unhygienic. She knocked on his door a couple of times, nobody answered, so she stuck a note to the door. In the note, she asked if his son could pick up a few ant traps and clean up a bit. The man who lived there was quite ill and weak due to having MRSA. I believe it is a disease that can be passed on through bodily fluids and stuff and eventually fatal. Thankfully, his son did his errands and helped care for him a little. A few days after, she got a knock on her door. It was the man's son. He told her the most horrifying, gross thing I'd ever heard. What happened was the man's son came over to take his dad to an appointment. He knocked. No one answered. Whilst waiting for his dad to answer, it occurred to him that he hadn't heard from his dad for nearly a week. I guess they contacted each other every other day, but since his dad didn't answer, his son grabbed the spare key that his dad had given to him. When he let himself in, he made a morbid, awful discovery. He found his dad's body, which was decomposing in his bed, fully covered in ants. He ran out of there, and a neighbor found him sobbing at his vehicle. In just a few minutes, the whole community had heard the terrifying news. As it just so happened, I'd taken my friend there to chill again on the same day his neighbor heard the horrible news. We didn't get a chance to sit down because she was telling us about it straight away. As she was describing all the ants crawling on him, I couldn't help thinking about how ants come into your home, crawl all over your sides, sinks and pots, even your food. So the ants were the scary part for me. Don't forget, MRSA can be passed through bodily fluids. We didn't return for a bit after we heard that. When we did, they were still in the middle of removing that caravan. After a man in a hazmat suit cleaned it out for 2 days. The whole thing creeped us out, but the ants especially.